Hello, wizard activists, and welcome to the HPA's Remembrall Readathon. I hope you've all signed up at the hpalliance.org/remembrall to keep up to date with all of the readathon happenings. Here on YouTube, I will be leading a discussion of each of the books as I read through them with you. Leave any thoughts that you have as you read down in the comments below, or hit us up on Twitter at the HPAlliance, #Remembrall. Since this is primarily a reread, there will maybe be some spoilers. But since I know a couple of people are using this opportunity to read the series for the first time, I'm going to try to keep some things vague and have spoiler warnings ahead of time. But the general rule of thumb is that anything is fair game once we are on the book that we should be according to the calendar at the hpalliance.org/remembrall. So, without further ado, let's begin Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Or Philosopher's Stone, I guess, depending where you're watching this. Or, you know, where you're from, whatever. Some people call it Philosopher's Stone. This is the most Americanized version of all the books, and then J.K. Rowling was able to put her fist down and be like, no, Mrs. Weasley is not a mom, she is a mum. Which, to me, means that she's a chrysanthemum, but that's okay. Cultures are different, and it's beautiful. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Chapter 1. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. I don't know if any of you have heard the story of our creator and co-founder Andrew Slack's first reading of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. From that very first sentence, he says he was hooked. He loved how subversive it was. You know, in those first few sentences, J.K. Rowling is clearly setting up normalcy as this laughable stereotype of boring people. Everything about the Dursleys in the first few paragraphs is dripping with ironic self-importance, which we're clearly supposed to find unappealing. Now, Andrew may have picked up on all of that reading the books as an adult for the first time, but when I first read those words, I was 8. So not only did I not quite pick up on that critical analysis, it also took me a very long time to read that first chapter. I mean, the first chapter is kind of monstrous. It's just filled with world building, and a lot of it is from the perspective of Mr. Dursley. It was tough for an 8-year-old. I remember laying upside down against the hallway wall in our old house, because apparently that was how I liked to read books as an 8-year-old, for several days in a row as I worked through that first chapter. I didn't give up, mostly because I think I wanted to like the Harry Potter books. The Harry Potter phenomenon had been the subject of several issues of Time magazine for kids, and I had read in Nickelodeon magazine that Jake Lloyd, the kid who was gonna play Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1, the golden age, back when we thought that the Star Wars prequels might actually be good. He said in an interview that his favorite book was Sorcerer's Stone, and I idolized him, so I had to read it. My mom used to read the books to me at night before bed, but then in the morning, I would take the books to school and read ahead. Now, since this was suburban Texas in the 1990s, most kids weren't allowed to read Harry Potter, so there was only one other kid in my class who was reading it. He and I would finish all our lessons early so that we could speed read through Quidditch matches, and we'd spend our downtime during kickball talking about who we thought would get cast in the movies that had just been announced, or pretending to duel with each other. And one of my favorite things recently has been seeing little kids at like the Quidditch World Cup or Harry Potter festivals dueling with each other just like we used to, just like casting imaginary spells and having to act them out. Oh, seeing the new generation enjoying Harry Potter and loving it and just being in that world like we were is just one of the greatest things to me right now. And an indication that I have grown up. The Potter generation has grown up. We are adults now, whether we like it or not. And that's some of what I want to focus on in this readathon. How the books feel different, what new perspectives I have reading them as an adult versus as Harry's age growing up with him. Which brings us to the Room of Ruminations. Alright, here's the thing that really shows that I'm older now. When Hagrid wakes up in the morning at the hut on the rock and Hagrid is on the couch, like barely waking up as Harry is trying to pay the owl that brought the Daily Prophet, I totally got how Hagrid felt. He had a long, rough journey getting to that hut, and then he had to sleep on a couch, no proper dinner or breakfast, no coffee in the morning, no hot shower. I can practically feel the grogginess, the aches and pains. I mean, yeah, Harry's in awe of being a wizard, right. But Hagrid's back. Oh, I feel you, man. Some of the Muggle technology is starting to be noticeably outdated in these books. For example, when Mr. Dursley hears someone whisper Potter on the street, he wants to let Petunia know immediately, so he has to dash back across the road, hurry up to his office, snap at his secretary not to disturb him, seize his phone, and dial his home number. Today, he could have just told Siri to text her. Okay, so you know the weatherman on TV talking about all the owls and fireworks and weird stuff the Muggles were noticing? The meteorologist promises a wet night tonight, as in the night that baby Harry spent on the Dursleys' doorsteps. It was raining on him. Did Dumbledore not check the forecast? Do wizards have forecasts? How do wizards check the weather? Okay, do they check the weather? Is that a thing that they care about? Can you get your OWL in magical meteorology? I just realized. Dursley. Weasley. There is parallelism between those two names. Dur is like a drudgery kind of sounding name, and then Wee, it's like, you know, it's like whimsical. So it's like Harry's two families. They're like versus each other, even in their names. Maybe if I'd written some more Harry Potter poetry growing up, I would have made that connection sooner. Can we talk about the obvious budget and technology differences between the movies of Sorcerer's Stone and Prisoner of Azkaban? In Prisoner of Azkaban, we got the cool like prosthetics, CGI, animagus transformation, and then in Sorcerer's Stone, we get a shadow. And speaking of animagi, I have so many questions. First of which, how to pronounce that properly. I think I will save most of those for the Prisoner of Azkaban videos, but one thing is in the first chapter, Dumbledore doesn't recognize McGonagall as a cat. Wouldn't he know what she looks like as a cat? She is registered, she transforms for students sometimes, like, he would know what she looks like. Alright, so Hagrid, a half-giant, fits perfectly well on this described huge flying motorcycle. Which begs the question, how tiny must Sirius Black have looked on that motorcycle? Yo, I just want to give a shout out to the best supporting actor of Chapter 3, the Smelting Stick. Bruh, you killed it in Chapter 3. I am so bummed that they didn't put you in the movies. I think that Stick Stickly would have done a fantastic job acting as you. There is an author named Adalbert's Waffling. I love it. And how did Hagrid fly? He said he flew. Was he on a broomstick? The motorcycle? I don't know. He said he flew. I don't know how he did it. Also, at the end of Chapter 5, it makes it sound like he apparated. Hagrid can't apparate, can he? Hagrid mentions at the beginning of Sorcerer's Stone at some point that cats make him sneeze. And later on in the series, doesn't he watch Hermione's cat? He at least really likes Hermione's cat. And I just think, doesn't that make Hagrid such a great guy? I mean, he's allergic to cats and he still loves Crookshanks. Honestly, I am just really loving Hagrid on this reread so far. He weirdly, like almost uncannily reminds me of this old professor of mine who I love very much. Hagrid is just so underrated as the best parental figure in Harry's life. He's pretty much the only one who was consistently there for Harry, and he didn't treat him too much like a peer or as too delicate or use him as a weapon to save the world. He treated him like a kid, one who he cared about very much, but that he also wasn't afraid to put in his place. Hagrid is great. Alright, those are my ruminations so far. Next video, we will get on the train and go to Hogwarts. Can't take the bus. Bus don't go to Hogwarts. And now, in honor of the great sass that is Harry James Potter that is left out of the movies, in each video we will be having a sass counter. I think I was a bit conservative with my estimates on this one, so please let me know if you think there is a higher count for this one in the comments. I will do better calculating in future videos, but so far, I think our sass count is up to 3. Yeah, that sounded pretty low. I think there's more than that. And the top sassy line from this installment comes from when Aunt Petunia is dyeing Harry's new school uniform for the school that he never ends up going to. Harry looked in the bowl again. "Oh," he said, "I didn't realize it had to be so wet." And that is your sass count for this week. Let's head on over to the Owlry. This comment comes from YouTube user 04th. They say, "I remember picking up on Neville's growth in terms of bravery and willingness to confront the nastiness of the wizarding world, but how did I not see how physically tough he'd become? I mean, we read that his uncle nearly killed him twice that we know of, and he's severely injured twice in the first week." You know, I was thinking kind of a similar thing. I was thinking actually just how many Hogwarts students get injured so frequently, and how Madame Pomfrey must really have her work cut out for her. But you bring up a really good point. Neville is physically very resilient, just because he is so clumsy. If you want your comment read in the Owlry in the next video, leave it below. And here's a prompt to start you off. This week, I want to know about how and when you discovered the Harry Potter books. And what do you remember about your first time reading the Sorcerer's Stone? Thank you all for watching. I will see you soon for the rest of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and happy reading.
This book is so awesome. I can do anything. This book is so awesome. I am the